Hello, everyone. Today, I am delighted to be joined by Booz. Laura is a writer, teacher, and podcaster who encourages women to love God, think biblically, and live vibrantly. She'll cheer you on, share practical ideas, and point out the beautiful ways that God is working in your life. She is delighted to host the Expect Something Beautiful podcast with Revive Our Hearts. And she's looking forward to the release of her first book, Expect Something Beautiful, Finding God's Good Gifts in Motherhood, October 2021. She and her husband, Ryan, and their 6 children make their home in Pennsylvania. Laura, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, everybody.
Well, Laura, at the beginning, I would love to just hear a little bit about you and your family and how you came to begin homeschooling.
Yes, sure. So I feel like lots of times when I hear people answer this question, they talk about going into homeschooling, kicking and screaming. But maybe my kids did that. But I actually felt called to homeschool when I was a child. Just like someone might feel called by the Lord to be a missionary to China someday or something like that. I really felt him put homeschooling on my heart. I wanted to homeschool my kids someday. I was not homeschooled. In fact, I did not know anyone who was homeschooled until I was like maybe in 7th grade. One girl who had been attending school with me started homeschooling, and it just seemed really interesting. But yeah, really, it just was this desire. I felt like I wanted to do it someday. I wanted to be kind of in the daily life with my children. I had this vision of just being out in a meadow with my children all gathered around, and we were learning together. And not a vision, but like this idea in my mind that seemed so lovely and good. And then as I went through high school and then through college and grad school, I wouldn't say I was making my choices based on I'm going to homeschool someday, but rather like kind of practical choices of like, this is what I want to study or a career path I could walk down. And now on this side of the equation, now that I have been homeschooling and my oldest is turning 16, I can see how the Lord used each of those choices without my intentionality to prepare me for the children that I have. So it really has been a remarkable walk of faith, even when it really wasn't on my mind at all, that the Lord was still making the path before me and planting the seeds that needed to be planted and preparing me. So yeah, it's just been really an amazing journey so far.
I remember hearing someone say one time that like God created a Paul so that Paul could write the epistles that he wrote, that all of his, history and life story and education, all those things, and personality even, were gifts from the Lord, knowing what he had called him to do eventually. And I think so often, like you were saying, like our own unique children, our own unique situations, birth orders, personalities, our calling as homeschool moms, and all of those very unique ways in our own personal families, we can look back and see how God was working and preparing us to be the mom our children needed, not the mom another kid needed, but the mom our children needed. And to see God at work in our families is really, really pretty amazing.
Yes, I totally agree. And even our weaknesses, like there are things like even out of the wounds from my past or my weaknesses or the things I didn't learn or whatever, I really can see how the Lord is using them and weaving them in to our day-to-day life. So yeah, it's astounding and he's so good.
Yeah. And then his grace is made perfect in weakness so
Right.
often.
Right.
Well, over the years, as you have, grown and your children have grown, what are some ways in which your approach to homeschooling or just educational ideas in general have grown or changed?
Well, funny you should ask, because the first thing that comes to my mind, so because I had always wanted to homeschool, like I feel like there were several times when I had like a false start. So I was like jumping the gun, like, ooh. In fact, my first baby was born prematurely, and I was at her bassinet in the NICU, like reading to her, singing her songs. Like I just had this in my mind of like, nurturing and sharing sharing everything I could with my children. So when she was about 2, because I was talking to her all the time and reading all the time and singing all the time, she was starting to show like a lot of interest in language. So she was asking about, how to start certain words and the sounds of letters and things like that. And I was like, oh, this is it. This is the time to start teaching her how to read. She was 2, right? So like when that's your first child, you are like so ready to go.
You're so gung-ho.
And you believe like, this is it. So I got a little like reading curriculum, and every day we would just sit at the kitchen table and we would start this reading curriculum. And I noticed after several weeks that she wasn't asking about words anymore. Like didn't care what tree started with, didn't care about the letter Q, didn't ask a thing. It was like a drastic change. And I remember putting her in her car seat one day, and I asked, I don't know why it dawned on me to ask her, but I was like, have I stolen the joy of words from you? And she said, let's wait to teach me to read till I'm 3. So when your 2-year-old says that to you, it's kind of like this opening. So anyway, that just kind of is a good story to indicate my trajectory in homeschooling, like being over anxious and just simply learning to like take it a notch down, take it a notch down. I'm a type A person anyway. And so by now I'm probably like a type B plus. I think homeschooling has like helped me to calm down. And so honestly, I have 6 children. My oldest is now 16 and then my youngest is 2. I feel like they've gotten more and more happy-go-lucky as I've just not happy, just like a more buoyancy in their childhood because I've just kind of lightened the load a little bit, waited to teach them to read, do it more slowly, more gently. And also, honestly, just for practical reasons, I've had to. Like I haven't been able to be as intentionally like, sitting down, teaching them all their things when they're 2 and 3 and 4. I've had to wait till the younger ones are 5 and 6 and 7. And it hasn't had a negative effect. So that's one thing that I notice has changed in me. A friend of ours, so this might seem a little unrelated, but it's very related to homeschool moms, I think. So during the race riots of 2020, we were just having a conversation with a very dear friend of ours who is a Black man. He's in the Army and he loves the Lord. And we were asking him, what does all of this mean to you? How are you processing all of this? What does this mean from your experience in the world? And you know what he said? He said, no hurry, no worry. Everybody else, you're feeling the tension of that moment. And he said, no hurry, no worry. And that was all based in his trust in the Lord. And I just took that. I was like, I want that for my own heart and my walk of faith and my homeschooling. No hurry, no worry, because so many times my homeschooling has been wrapped up either in eagerness or fear or accomplishment, all the stuff, all of our motives. But to remember that with the Lord, there is no hurry and there's no worry. And I found an actual verse that seemed to kind of dovetail for me anyway. I don't know if it'd be helpful for you, but it's Psalm 4:5, and it says, offer right sacrifices, then put your trust in the Lord. And to me, that means like, bring your whole heart to the table, come before the Lord and say, Lord, I really want to please you. I really want to serve you today. I want to love my husband. I want to love my children, nurture them, teach them well and faithfully, steward the gifts you've given me, and then put your trust in the Lord. And that allows us to, I think, I like the phrase of homeschooling from a place of rest. That's Sarah Mackenzie, who I love from the Read Aloud Revival. So anyway, yeah, those things come to mind.
I love that. Yeah, I love that reminder because so often we face things, or even if it's like something as simple as a child who can't figure out fractions, whatever it is, or big picture, it's so easy to globalize those situations, and all of a sudden it's an emergency and we have to fix everything right now, and it's all on our own shoulders. And if we don't do this, everything's going to be ruined and our children's lives will be ruined forever. I might possibly be a little melodramatic sometimes, but
It does go there though. In my mind too, I go there.
Yes, I think most of us do. And that reminder that even if there is something that needs to be done or steps we need to take, that we don't have to rush in and try to fix everything all at once, that's a helpful reminder, and to rest in the work of Christ. Something I talk about a lot is where our identity is. And if we're putting it in, making sure we've done all the right things as a mom and we've checked off all the boxes and we've, basically pushed all the right buttons, expecting to get out this product, we're going to really be exhausted and disappointed because we're not going to be able to save ourselves or our children. So to kind of flip that over and be able to rest in the work that Christ has done on our behalf brings so much rest and peace to our homeschool and just our life as moms in general.
Yeah. And then I think it opens this door to worship because we get to see what he does with our meager offering and marvel at it. We get to see how he works things out over time, and our children grow in character slowly but steady, and how he forgives and heals and comforts, and it's so marvelous.
Yes. Well, one of my friends, Elena Sutherland, often says that homeschooling is parenting intensified. So, it is all the things that we deal with as moms, only more so because it's sort of in all the areas of life. And so many more opportunities for growing in grace and being sanctified and getting to repent a lot. I would love to hear how you have seen God really pursue you through this journey of motherhood, and how has your relationship with him grown as you've been a mom?
Linda is so right. That's such a good way of putting it, because we're not any different than a mom who doesn't homeschool, except it's just kind of our everyday, all the time intensity. Okay, let's see. So there's the story that comes to my mind, and it kind of gives a feel for how I've seen the Lord work in my life in general in a million different ways. So the story that comes to mind is when I had 3 little ones, and my older 2 daughters were doing schoolwork. I can't remember if they were, in 2nd grade and kindergarten or something. And then I had a third who was 4, probably. My son was probably 4. So just starting, I could have done some preschool things with him, but he mostly loved to have storybooks read to him and then maybe play something based on those storybooks. But I was probably pregnant, to tell you the truth. And I just remember feeling like I was ruining him. Like, all I'm doing is feeding him fruit snacks and letting him watch shows. Like, I just felt like, Lord, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm not stewarding this little boy well. I was comparing what I did with my older 2 with what I wasn't doing with him. I just was feeling like, what am I doing? And I really was so upset about it. I remember just laying down on the floor, crying, like, Lord, I need your help. I do not know what to do with him. And he, in that moment, brought to my mind that I had just seen and scrolling through my email, this email from Soccer Shots. And really, it just came to my mind in that moment of prayer. And I went back to my email and looked, sure enough, Soccer Shots, and they were starting a season. We had never done Soccer Shots before. I don't know how I was on their mailing list, but they were starting up another next season at the church right around the corner, really right around the bend. And they were starting the next week. So I contacted them. We got his registration in, and he did this little Soccer Shots program. I don't know, maybe it was once or twice a week. But I remember the first time we went, I brought the 2 little girls. They did their schoolwork on the sidelines, and he's in there doing a little soccer shot thing. And at one point, he must have ran back to defend the goal, and the coach said, "You're a good defender, Malachi." I started crying. I was like, my word, this is so life-giving. And that coach just told him he's a good defender, which of course I want for him, from Proverbs 31, like, speak up for those who can't speak up for themselves, be a good defender. So I actually came home and wrote it on a poster board and put it by his bed. It was such a blessing. I don't know how long a Soccer Shot season lasts. It was probably like 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, but that was a blessing from the Lord at a time when I was desperate and I didn't know how to build into my son's life. So that has happened in a million ways throughout my homeschooling experience, whether it's just the night before, I'm not quite sure what to do with one of the kids. And I say, Lord, I need an idea. And a little art idea will come to mind and I'll give it a try. I have sinned against them. And I'm like, oh, Lord, when will I ever stop being sarcastic or taking that so personally? And he gives me truth from his word or comforts me or helps me to ask them for forgiveness. Really, it's just been that daily coming to him, whether it's very emotional and I'm on my face crying, or it's just a momentary like, oh, Lord, we're going to be 15 minutes late. Like, please give us your grace and help me to have good ideas here to get us out the door, whatever. This is presence and his friendship and his very real help in time of need. So that's been so meaningful to me.
I love hearing all of those stories, all of those examples you were giving too, all started with prayer and just how often we can be distracted because we're so busy with these important things. Like, in the story of Mary and Martha, where these are important things, Lord, we have to get these things done. I don't have time to pray. I don't have time to read your word because I'm so busy, getting the math lesson done or the baby's diaper changed or whatever. But that it is our life, and to spend that time in prayer, that is a means of grace by which the Lord ministers to us. And then to see the Lord answer those prayers is like this testimony. You can look back and know, I can pray today and I know the Lord will answer that prayer because I've seen him do that over and over again in the years, past.
Yes. That's it.
Being a mom is such a good, precious gift, and we're so delighted to be moms. And sometimes on the hard days, we still struggle to feel that way about it and to remember that, it is true that this is a gift. So, maybe it's expectations that haven't been met the way we anticipated they would be, or we're just very tired. We're serving and pouring out all day to our families and our church communities. So how can we find true rest in Christ and encouragement, especially in the midst of those hard times, to persevere by his grace?
I think there are so many different ways, but I'll speak to what has helped me. And one is a couple close friends who kind of have the same, who are surrendering to the same book, the Bible, who, even if we, wrestle and talk it out and even complain, we know by the end of the conversation, our friend is going to say, here's what this book says, this dear book that both of us love and live under. And here's the good heart of our Heavenly Father, and just a good listening ear and helpful, dear friends. And really, you just need one, two, that you walk alongside and they walk alongside you. It's just has been so dearly precious to me over all my years of motherhood. I thought friends were important in middle school, high school, college. Think about your friendships during those periods of time. But I think that there is nothing like the friends in motherhood. So if you don't have one, then I would make that a first priority of prayer and ask the Lord to, first of all, make you a dear friend to somebody, and then also to provide a dear friend for you, because it is long and it is hard, and we need each other to care for one another in ways that, even our husbands can't, because they, are living a different experience in the world. So it just is so dear to have another woman who really can say, me too, or cheer you on or cry with you. So for me, God's grace of friendship has been so, so valuable. And then also, I think also the grace of honesty, of sharing those things with the Lord when motherhood is hard and you feel really discouraged and things you don't like about it. I think that it's more helpful to be honest with him than to try to cover it up or or, try to tell yourself, don't think that. Like, we never get anywhere with that type of denial. So instead, to bring your complaints to him, some of them he will work in you a gratitude and a surrender to, some complaints and things, or he'll shed light on it and perspective to see, yeah, that's kind of what every 4-year-old does, right? Or every 13-year-old, like it's the season of life, and you'll gain perspective so that you can offer grace to your child and have endurance to walk alongside them. And other things he'll fix. Other things that we bring our complaints before him and say, like, Lord, I legitimately don't like the way this is going. Like, I need a solution here. I need your grace. Can you help me solve this problem or change this person's heart? And, those things might not be immediate, might not even be, it might be a long time coming, but I really think it's perfectly good to bare our souls before the Lord and be honest with him, and then expect him to address those things as a good father does.
When we are honest with the Lord first, it also enables us to be authentic with our friends. And I think it's so valuable to be willing to say when things are hard, or we've messed up, or we don't know what to do, not necessarily like broadcasting it to the world, but to those friends that are going to listen and point you back to the gospel, of course. Because I know in my own life, there were things, especially with my firstborn, certain challenges that I heard no one talking about. And I was like, it must be like me or my kid, like what's wrong? And to feel that kind of feeling of aloneness, like what you're dealing with is so crazy. And, but instead to realize now I've begun talking to some other moms who have that same, like, me too. This is common to man. Like, we are not alone in that. And there's something really encouraging just to realize, okay, other moms have faced this same thing. God has been faithful. He will continue to be faithful in those ways.
Yeah. A friend of mine just recently shared with me that the opposite of shame is connection, which to me was not intuitive, because I was telling her about just this low grade feeling of shame I was feeling. And she shared that. And I thought, oh, I would have thought the opposite of shame would have been, I don't know, like peace or pride or coming into the light. I don't know. But to think about how connecting with the Lord will address some of that shame that we feel about, what am I doing wrong? What's wrong with my child? Why aren't they doing this? Or, how comparing all this stuff. And similarly with friends, when we can connect with a friend about it, then it really does wall up that enemy of shame.
Yeah, that is really powerful. I'm going to be thinking about that. I just sort of got some goosebumps. Like, wait, I need to stop this conversation and think about that for a bit. Mm-hmm. I'll have to wait and do that after we're done. Mm-hmm. I want to ask too, as we're discussing these things, and I have a feeling some of these same principles of going to the Lord, resting in his word, it seems so simple, and yet it's not, we know, but it is that root and that foundation for all of these topics. But want to ask specifically about our expectations for the future. We wake up in the morning and we're like, today I'm not going to yell at my kids, and today nobody's going to cry over their homework, and it's going to be a good day. And then, after breakfast, that's already fallen apart. Or like the semester, okay, we've got our plans, we've got our textbooks picked out, the perfect curriculum, and our expectations maybe aren't met. Or then like long term, the kinds of humans our children are going to grow up to be, what the Lord will have for us even after they leave home. So expectations, goals are good to set, but sometimes we don't do it in a very wise or godly way. So long question. Yeah, how can we set up these sort of godly expectations for the future?
It's actually a very good question, because I think our expectations really matter, because they really determine what we are looking for and how we process the things that come to be. So, and I think expectations is another word for hope. And so when scripture says, be prepared to give an answer for the hope that you have, it matters what you're putting your hope in, and it matters what you're looking forward to. And it's also helpful that I just wrote a book called Expect Something Beautiful. So I have been ruminating about expectations. I don't know that I'd be able to put into words how I feel without having already worked on this book for a year. So I think when it comes to homeschooling and motherhood, is that it's helpful to look forward at the day with the eyes of like, I've been called to this relationship, a relationship with this person, and the reason that our relationship is going to grow and be knit together is because of this person's needs. Like needs, when a person needs something, that weaves us together in a way nothing else can. So it's beautiful. It's hard, but we have to be honest about it. Like they are rarely ever planned. Like, yes, I know my child tomorrow will need breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We'll need clothes, whatever. But then there are so many different surprises and the timing of it and what it is that it's helpful for me to go into a day expecting this is going to be a relationship and the messiness of a relationship and the beauty of a relationship and the surprise of a relationship. So that, yes, I can make plans, but also knowing what comes first is the needs and the way that the Lord's going to weave us together today. So that, and maybe even write it out, like if whatever season of life you're in, you can say like, okay, well, today someone's going to call my name out of the blue and I've got to go running to their side. Like, I know it's going to happen. I just don't know when or what I'll be doing. Probably I'll be like talking on the phone or dealing with an important problem somewhere else. That's when I'm going to be needed. Or, someone's going to have a meltdown about something that's just too hard for them. And it's going to be my privilege and calling to come by their side and help them through it. So anyway, not to be idealistic about it, but also to cast this vision for yourself so that you do go to bed not feeling like all day long you were pulled in a million directions and you really didn't accomplish anything, but to go to bed, put your head on the pillow and remember, yes, today I anticipated that our relationships would grow, and they did. I anticipated that all of these unexpected things would come up because that's relationships, and it did. And the Lord was good, and I can go to bed feeling content with that. So I don't know if that.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. No, that's helpful. I was just thinking on the days that I'm most at peace with my children are the days when somebody at an awkward moment is having trouble, of course, and needs me to come help them work through something. And on those days where by God's grace, I can just be like, hey, this is what I'm here for. Like, that is why I'm here, is to help you when you have a problem. Then generally, actually, they understand things better. Like our relationship goes more smoothly and I'm not stewing in my own mind about how it's interrupting, the plans I had for the day. Because I can see that, no, actually, this was what God had for me today. And on those days instead, where I'm just kind of grumbling in my head about, oh, I can't believe I have to stop what I'm doing to go help you with your math or whatever, then that just breaks fellowship. It makes me miserable, makes the kids miserable. And it's not really seeing that this was, in fact, part of that good gift of God and the relationships with my kids.
Right. And I think everybody says this to be very discerning about the images you see on social media. And I think especially, honestly, to be very discerning about the images we see in the homeschooling world, particularly like in ads. We have a running joke here at our family when we get a homeschooling catalog. It's just hilarious because the images that you see, you're like, there's no possible way. Like, no, this family is not all sitting around with the dad playing his guitar and the son like looking at a plant in the sunlight and somebody reading. I mean, maybe, and I'm so happy for them if that's their reality. But I have to have a really good filter for that's a pretty picture. And what it's communicating to me are these ideas of, yes, family is beautiful. And when everybody's engaged, it's beautiful. When people are creating and making music and sunlight and nature and all those things are beautiful and good, but not to make it an idol. Instead, to keep worshiping the Creator and to see how that really works out in real time. I don't know. It's been helpful to me.
Yes, definitely. And you bringing up, setting up as an idol makes me think, I think it's Elise Fitzpatrick who talks about um, when we have a good desire or something, it's not that the desire itself is bad. Like it's good to desire that our children would be obedient, for example. Like that's a good desire to have. But when we don't get what we desire, it really shows whether it had been, even a good desire had become an idol. Because when you don't get what you desire, your child disobeys. Are you going to respond in anger as if you've been personally affronted, or are you going to respond in a loving, humble way, or anything? Whether the kitchen, having a clean kitchen, that is a good desire. It's not a desire I get very often, to be frank, but it's when I don't get it. I can't believe why is this kitchen always so messy? And no one ever puts their cups in the dishwasher. That reaction in our heart really shows if it's become an idol, something we value more than we value the Lord.
Speaking of when things don't go exactly as they should, if your listeners hear a rumbling sound in the background, it's because we're getting our propane delivered. We've been without heat for a couple of days.
Oh no.
So I'm super glad that the big truck is here with the propane, but also I'm sorry if you can hear that noise in the background.
That's okay. A few minutes ago, one of our fire alarm, smoke alarms beeped, which means apparently the battery is going down. I'm just like, please don't beep too much.
Yeah.
We'll see. Well, Laura, if you were talking to a new homeschool mom or someone who is considering homeschooling, what would you want to say to that new mom?
That I'm so happy for you because it really is an awesome experience. Sometimes I say, like, okay, my objective in homeschooling, because I've grown so much as a person, I've learned so much. So I went through grad school and I have learned more homeschooling my children than I learned my entire education. I'm sure of it 100%. So I'm happy for you personally and all you will learn about yourself, about God, about your child, and then also like about the world God made, about literature and science and history. Like it's just going to be so fun if you allow yourself to embrace and enjoy it. So here's what I usually say, like, well, I am homeschooling so that my children have a positive enough experience so that one day they'll homeschool their kids and actually get an education. Because I know, like, I just am learning so much. But I think, let's see, I wrote some verses down, some notes down. Oh, love. To remember, like it's all about love. What I was saying before about relationship. That it's not a job and it's not even primarily a calling, but it's primarily a relationship with a person God chose to put in your life. And this is the path he's put before you to grow that relationship. Homeschooling's part of that. And to see it as that. So instead of keeping your eye on like the checklist, which of course we have to be mindful of that and fulfill the requirements, and we want to be faithful stewards. But to faithfully steward the relationship is so essential, so key. And then just one other little thing, and this is a tidbit that I picked up from Cindy Rollins. She was like a pioneer homeschool mom. So if you ever hear an interview with her or pick up one of her books or read an article that she's written, she's really been in the homeschool community for a very long time and has a lot of perspective and wisdom. I love what she wrote. So she actually has a book called Motherhood, Cindy Rollins. And one of the main points that she makes, or one of the main points that resonated with me anyway, I don't think she says just do it. I know that's the Nike slogan, but something to that effect. Like just do it. Like when you're feeling like, oh, I need to make a plan so that I read more picture books with my children. And so you sit down on the computer and you start making out this plan. Well, her point would be like, just grab a picture book and read it to your child. Write that in there. Or like, oh yeah, I had just heard that other mom talk about taking her kids out for ice cream for lunch on a bad day. Like I need to make a plan to do that. Nope, just do it. It doesn't have to be a bad day. Like say everybody in the car, we're going to go get ice cream. That has helped me a lot because I feel like it's so easy to feel like you've got to get all the systems in place and you've got to get the calendar all ironed out and you've got to get the plan. But just to be like, oh, doing a puzzle is important. Let's do the puzzle. So those were just a couple of things that I would pass on to a new homeschool mom to kind of have those tools ready to go, because I think that would be really helpful.
I love that. And I love Cindy as well. In fact, season 2 of the podcast, she came on Homeschool Conversations and we got to chat together, and it was really, really delightful. So I'll include that link in the show notes too, if anyone wants to go listen to Cindy as well. Well, at the end here, I'm asking all of my guests this season the same 2 questions. So I'm just going to start by asking, what are you reading lately?
I knew you were going to ask me this, and I was like, oh, I should offer like a really relevant homeschooling book.
No.
I thought I would go with Honest.
Good.
I was actually reading a book called Suffering by Paul David Tripp. And it came up in my life because of friendship. It was a new friend who was just mentioning, like, oh, I was just reading this morning in this book, Suffering by Paul David Tripp, that fill in the blank. I can't remember exactly what she said, but it made me realize, like, wait, why is my friend reading a book on suffering? Because whenever someone's reading a book on suffering, there's a reason, either they're writing a report on it or they're suffering. So I just ordered it and I just started it. And I told her, like, it will probably come out over time why you're reading it, but I just wanted to let you know that I ordered it and I'm reading it too. So I started that, and it's really beautiful. One of the most impactful things so far is he pointed out that suffering is spiritual warfare. And I never would have thought of it that way. But I can now see that it would be, for sure. So anyway, there you have it. That's the book I'm actually reading.
That is a wonderful book. I love Paul David Tripp. He has so many excellent titles, and I love the way he can take things and just say them in sort of this very pointed, like, way that makes you think of things in a new, think of things you are already, maybe took for granted, but think about them in a new way.
Mm-hmm. And it's from his own experience through suffering. It also sparked my interest too. I think my ear was just kind of tuned to the topic because a friend of my sister's has recently, she's like on the upswing of recovering from colon cancer, where she had, 50% chance of living. She had just felt that the Lord put on her heart to homeschool her little ones. And then boom, that went in a whole different direction than she would have ever dreamed or thought or wanted. And she was talking about now on the other side of recovery, that there are certain things that are incompatible, ways she was living, ways she was thinking before being sick. Now that what she's gone through, she said, and that word, there are certain aspects of life that are incompatible once you have a greater eternal perspective. I don't know. It's just been mulling around in my mind. And I want to know, what are those things? Once you've suffered and once you've seen the hand of God, how does life change? And how does your perspective change because of that? So
that sounds like a wonderful book that we should all probably read. Well, my final question for you is, what is your best tip for helping the homeschool day run smoothly?
Very simple, and it's just to smile. I think besides prayer, smiling is the most powerful thing I do any day, from day to day. Smiling at my husband, smiling at my kids when they walk in the door, when I just, sitting next to them anytime I can. Smiling is, I think, a very special gift from God. We bless one another and we say, may his face shine upon you. May, he have his countenance upon you. And that just means may God smile at you. And he gives us that to give to one another. And especially the dear people in our home. Even if I'm not feeling the smile inside, it's not being fake. I'm not saying like, smile fakely, but I'm saying there are many times when we're not aware of what our face, our countenance looks like. And that really matters in our day. And as kind of the life givers in our home, when we smile, everything changes. Our own attitude, our children. So that's my number one tip, to smile.
Well, wherever anyone is while you're listening or watching, I want you to turn and smile at your children.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I can guarantee that you are so beautiful when you smile. I can guarantee it.
What a wonderful encouragement and reminder. Laura, this has been a delightful conversation. I'm so glad that you were here with us today. Could you please tell people where they can find you all around the internet, and then tell us a little bit about the book that's coming out very soon? And I hope everyone can go and pre-order that. I will have links in the show notes, but tell us where they can find you all around the internet.
Well, I know you can find me at laurabooz.com, LauraBooz.com. That's just my main website. And then you can find me on Facebook and Twitter, I think. So I am really not involved in social media. And so you can look for me there. Maybe I'll be there. At this point in my life, the Lord hasn't called me to be super involved in social media. So I'm not there much, but I do post on my blog, like when there are upcoming things, and you can subscribe there so that if I have big news for you or something, I'll just send you an email. I'm not a frantic emailer either. So mostly at laurabooz.com at this point.
And what is the new book? Tell us about the new book. What is it about?
It is about, so the title again is Expect Something Beautiful, Finding God's Good Gifts in Motherhood. And it really is about how, as a woman walks with God through motherhood, that he gives her good gifts. He gives her the gift of his presence and his help. Over time, he will be more and more like Jesus, to love like he does and to see people the way he does. And it's a beautiful, beautiful gift. So it's just an exploration of that kind of, some down to earth, real stories from my own life, how I've experienced his good love and care through motherhood, and encouragement, and kind of some tools to help other moms to turn toward him and walk with him through motherhood too. So that's it.
I look forward to reading that.
Thanks.
Well, I am just excited to be able to share the news about that book and to share you with my audience. And I will have links to all the things we have chatted about today in the show notes for this episode at humilityanddoxology.com. Thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Amy. Bye-bye.